I'm Soledad O'Brien. Welcome to Matter of Fact. The deadly school shooting in Florida is renewing calls for action to tackle gun violence in America. In the wake of this past week's shooting, former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, who survived an assassination attempt and was shot in the head, expressed frustration. She tweeted, in part, "If Congress won't act, the voters must." Would a crop of new lawmakers be able to make a change? Several teenagers who aren't even old enough to vote are running for state office in Kansas, including 17-year-old Jack Bergeson of Wichita. He's a Democrat, and 17-year-old Tyler Ruzick of Prairie Village. He's a Republican. They're both running for governor of Kansas. It's so nice to have you both with me.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations on joining the race. Let me start with you, Jack, first. How did you figure out that there was this loophole in the law that allowed you guys to run?
I will admit it was somewhat by accident. I was, one day just researching stuff about the state government, and I saw there was nothing for any of the statewide offices. Immediately when I saw that, I began thinking, I could do this because I could make a change.
And what brought you into the race, Tyler?
Jack and I had met over social media a few years ago. And when I actually heard the news that a teenager from Wichita had ran, I was just so excited, and so got in touch with Jack. We talked a little bit, and I realized that this was something I could possibly do. And it was Jack kind of told me, you know what, Tyler, it would be really good to have a Republican in this race.
Already bipartisanship.
Yes,
we're already ahead of the
bipartisanship.
game here.
Yes,
with
bipartisanship.
you guys in the campaign.
Yeah.
Do you think you're qualified?
One of my things is that I believe the qualifications of the governor is that they must care deeply about the state, and they believe that they have solutions that will solve the problems of our state and our country. And that's why I got into the race.
I noticed, Tyler, that you were sort of nodding your head pretty vociferously when Jack was talking about the first thing you need to do if you want to run for governor is really love your state and want to help people. Tell me a little bit about what you think you're qualified for to be a governor, the next governor of Kansas.
Well, it's all about perspective. I've been really open in discussing that having a good resume does not necessarily mean you're going to have the best results. Our now former Governor Sam Brownback, he had been involved in politics for almost all of his life. But when it came into putting that experience into practice, it just didn't work out. Schools were underfunded. We saw a complete breakdown of the budget. The tax reform in the state was a complete disaster.
One of the big stories of the week, of course, is a school shooting. What would be your strategy for bringing an end to what I think a lot of people think is clearly a crisis? Nobody seems to agree on how to fix it.
Although I am an advocate of Second Amendment rights, I think we need to look at making sure the guns stay out of the hand of dangerous people that we know are dangerous. What we need to look at doing is making sure there's a stronger background check that is more comprehensive. We also need to look at making sure that we close the gun show loophole so that everyone that buys a gun has to go through the official process. You cannot stop a lot of these people. They're demented, but you can prevent them from having a gun and doing much more damage.
How about you, Tyler?
I am a Republican. Many of my members of my family are very proud gun owners. But I am going to be honest. I want to be in firm opposition and stand in the way of progress that the NRA and the gun lobby makes.
That puts you, completely opposed to most of the Republican Party.
If I'm making an enemy of the NRA, I think that's something I'm kind of proud of, to be honest. I've seen what gun violence does to people in my community. We have to stop using mental illness as a scapegoat. Yes, mental illness plays a part in it. Yes, I absolutely believe in the Second Amendment. It's clearly outlined that we have a right to bear arms. However, it's time that we definitely change the dialogue and the rhetoric on gun violence in this country, because we are too many lives lost, too many mass shootings, too late to say that this is a mental health issue when truly it comes down to guns and firearms.
What realistically are your chances of being successful?
I've seen, some people, I first got in the race, I'm like, I did not think there would be as much momentum as I've gotten. So I believe that our campaign is going to be a fighting force, and even though we may not win the nomination, we will definitely have a force on the next governor of Kansas.
Tyler, can you win?
I'm going to be on the ballot. I'm going to be a choice that's going to be possibly for people to make. While my chances may be small, I think I can win the election regardless of being elected or not. And getting the youth involved, meeting in the middle, public education, state Medicaid, those are issues that I think I can make a big impact on this general election, whether I win the nomination or not, and on the national level as well.
So clearly you've already embraced being political candidates because you give very long answers to yes or no questions, like all the other candidates that I interviewed. So nice to have you guys, Jack and Tyler. Good luck in your campaigns.
Thank you.
And maybe we'll see you in the governor's house.
We will see. Hopefully.